lascia così. Salve a tutti lettori di Spazio Games, oggi siamo qui per l'evento di Shadow of the Tomb Raider alla Microsoft House e abbiamo avuto l'occasione di intervistare Jason Dozois, Narrative Director, e Heath Smith, Lead Game Designer. Ma prego, venite che andiamo a scoprire cosa ci hanno detto.
The state is on news, wrapping in your arms.
First of all, can you present yourself?
Sure. My name is Jason Dozois. I'm the narrative director on Shadow of the Tomb Raider.
It's Heath Smith, lead game designer, Shadow of the Tomb Raider.
In Shadow of the Tomb Raider avremo modo di conoscere una Lara che nel tempo è maturata. Com'è stata la vostra esperienza nell'evolvere un personaggio così complesso?
Well, the question is momentum, right? We have Tomb Raider 2013, where we have a very more immature, inexperienced Lara Croft, who's in a reactionary mode. You know, she's trying to prove her father was wrong about myths, and she goes out to be a rebel, to rebel against the family. She realizes at the end of this that she was completely wrong. Her father was right about many things, and her understanding of herself changes a bit. So she becomes, in Rise of the Tomb Raider, a more of an explorer. She reaches out for the first time and is trying to redeem the reputation of her family. And she realizes through this adventure coming into conflict with Trinity that there's more things that she doesn't understand, and that the reputation of the family is not the most important thing. Stopping Trinity is more important. Saving the world is more important. So the source artifact, she has to break this to save the world at the end of Rise of the Tomb Raider. But there's also a big revelation that her father didn't commit suicide. Her father was killed. So now, internally, she has an identity crisis. She has this feeling that everything she knew, everything she believed her whole life was wrong. So she's trying to subconsciously repair this. And the task she's given herself is to track down Trinity, understand, and stop them. So she goes off with her friend Jonah to stop Trinity. So this is where she is at the beginning of this game. Proactive to the point of obsession. So now it's starting to be immoral action, going too far, too fast, impatient, and she gets into trouble. She takes the key of Shakshel, and she thinks she's doing the right thing, but she starts this chain reaction of horrible events coming. So this game is about her repairing this error, and also learning that moderation and applying her power in a responsible way is the correct way to act in the world.
E avere una Lara più complessa significa anche avere un gameplay più strutturato, un level design che cerca di adattarsi alle sfaccettature del personaggio.
Yes, so obviously what we try to do is exactly like you say, represent her growth in the gameplay. So we try to show less reaction, more pro-action. So we show, for example, I'll give you a micro example. On the healing system of the previous game, you heal when you are damaged. That's it, right? Now, healing, you can be proactive with your herbal remedies, what we call herbal remedies. Previously, it was just one type of herbal remedy healing. Now you have 4 types. You have gaining focus to help you in combat, to slow down time, perception when you aim. You have another one that helps you sense things through the environment, which is very useful for jungle. But again, what it shows is a representation of that on the micro level, on the moment-to-moment gameplay. It shows that she's more planning, she's more calculating, she's more strategic in her actions.
Durante la prova abbiamo visto che nei vari ambienti di gioco, soprattutto negli hub, si cerca di rendere sempre più dinamico il sistema di missioni. Come si adatta tutto questo alla continuità narrativa?
So every hub that you get to in the game, we want to encourage that you can explore, because the narrative has a lot of urgency in it, but we don't want you to be so urgent that you don't want to explore. So every time we get to a hub sequence, we want to decelerate the urgency enough, not that you're confused, you don't know what to do, but enough that you don't feel bad to go talk to people and explore. So we really worked hard to find moments, so like Jonah is talking to Abby and he's having a good, so you're like, okay, everyone's okay, and I can go explore. There's nothing urgent. It's not like someone says help me, and you're like, oh, I'm gonna go and collect things, like this doesn't make sense. So it's trying to find, and that it seems easy now that it's working well, that was the answer, but it took a lot of iteration, a lot of versions to come up with a scenario where you feel I know what I have to do, but I also feel okay to go explore. So all 3 hubs, we have this kind of thing where you can kind of go off and do some side missions. You can always fast travel after, and so you're not going to miss anything. But it was all really in the structure and in the cinematics and in the narrative to just encourage exploration.
In questo nuovo capitolo abbiamo hub sempre più grandi. E in che modo questo può aiutare l'esperienza di un nuovo Lara Croft?
So actually, what's interesting when we talk about size, we don't just talk about surface area, we're talking more about depth. So because we have new layers of traversal that were either that just hinted or suggested at previously, now you have a whole underwater section. So we want to celebrate. A hub is a celebration of the like a playground for Lara's abilities and challenges. So we have a whole underwater, and we have a whole canopy and cliff traversal because of the rappelling, the wall running. So this by nature increases the size, and effective area is increased by the fact that you have a big social component. People need to live there and operate. So when you take these out of the equation, the hub is naturally smaller. What it doesn't mean, though, is more dead time. What we work very hard to do is ensure that even though maybe the physical space is bigger, you're still engaged moment to moment. You always have something to do, whether it's collecting, hunting, social engagement, challenge tombs, crypts, all of these things. It's a full palette. Bear in mind, though, this is taking inspiration from what we call Metroidvania. This series is like a Metroidvania. So when you enter a hub, you may not always be able to access everything you see because you need a new type of gear, for example, right? And then when you come back to the hub, okay, now I have a new ability or a new gear. Now I can access a new area. This is natural because you don't want to overwhelm the player with a giant space the first time you enter the space. And maybe something unique for Shadow of the Tomb Raider is because we have social aspect to the hub, the gear could actually be what you are wearing. So there will be certain areas or certain people that won't give you access to certain areas if you're not wearing certain outfit. So this gives also a unique flavor.
Gadget e attrezzatura all'inizio del gioco ci fanno capire che questo titolo è stato pensato tanto per coloro che hanno già giocato i primi 2 capitoli. Chi invece non li ha giocati sentirà la mancanza di questi 2 capitoli e vorrà recuperarli, oppure comunque riuscirà a godersi questo terzo capitolo fin da subito, con poi dopo magari la curiosità di continuare con gli altri 2?
Yeah, you saw the pacing at the beginning, right? It's like the greatest hits of the last 2 games, yes? It is a puzzle, some social space, a combat, a stealth portion, and an assault portion, an OMS where you have a big, the flood. All these things were done by design to, one, act as a tutorial and remind you of what Tomb Raider has been.
It's like a calibration.
Exactly. It's just like, hey, remember this? Boom. So if you've never played before, you understand with this sequence all the way up to the flood what Tomb Raider is before you get to the jungle where you really see a new change, new expanded exploration and things like that. So this was all done on purpose to make sure that if you just started with this game, it's a perfect game for you to start with. You're not going to miss anything. But if you have played the other ones, you'll have some occasional conversations and hints that are like, we know what's going on. So if you have explored around and Jonah's with you and you're exploring, you'll have additional dialogues that will make references.
There's a tease because you expect to do ancient language like in Rise of the Tomb Raider very early on, like she did in Syria, and there's a monolith and she says, I can't read this, it's too deteriorated. And it's because we're going to bring that back later in the game, but with a twist. So we like to tease you there and subvert your expectation.
Nella presentazione durante l'evento avete detto che questa giungla è l'ambiente perfetto per questa Lara. In che modo potete approfondire questa affermazione?
First, it's just the evolution of the character calls for the most dangerous location in the world. Everything in the jungle, as we say, is trying to kill you. That's what Jonah thinks. Anything, anyway. But the jungle also has the most type of life. You know, you have plants that can heal you, things that there's everything. There's life and death. So it's the most developed space. So above you have life, on below you have death, and we wanted to show this evolution of Lara through the environment. Not only to contrast visually with, say, Siberia, Russia, all these cold and gray. So we have a color difference, but it's really just in the behavior and how that's going to impact the game mechanics, how she behaves in combat and stuff.
Yeah, practically, we're heading towards her becoming the Tomb Raider she's meant to be, and so she needs to be more capable and more professional and learn about more environments, and she has not experienced the jungle in this trilogy. So practically, by taking her and putting her in the jungle, she needs to learn new methods and new tools that she can carry with her in her future tomb raiding adventures wherever they may take her. On top of that, it's a nice reflection of her psychology in this game and where she's at emotionally and psychologically. The fact that it's, like you say, it's duality, it's life and death. So that also fits very well with the narrative.
Per concludere invece, riguardo al futuro di Lara Croft per Crystal Dynamics, questa sarà la fine di Lara nei panni di Tomb Raider? O sarà per voi la fine di Tomb Raider?
It's the end of the... Well, it's not the end of the...
Yeah, for Crystal Dynamics.
It is the end of the origin story. So it's just the end of this chapter. So I don't know what's next. I actually don't know. I wish I did know, because I'm curious, as you are curious, what's next. But it's really the end of this origin story, and we wanted to leave her in a place where she's fully developed her skills, but also her morality.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.